Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa habibina wa syafi'ina wa nuri qulubina wa qurrati a'yunina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa ina ta'alluma wa ta'lim wa tazakkura wa tazkir wa nafa' wa intifa' wa ifada wa istifada wa lahatha ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulih sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة أهل السماوات وأهل الأرض وعافني وارزقني في أموري كلها وأجي يا ربي لطفك الخفي في أموري وأمور المسلمين وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة أهل السماوات وأهل الأرض وعافني وارزقني في أموري كلها وأجي يا ربي لطفك الخفي بأموري وأمور المسلمين وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة أهل السماوات وأهل الأرض وعافني وارزقني في أموري كلها وأجي يا ربي لطفك الخفي في أموري وأمور المسلمين وسلم تسليما في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We're continuing with our reflection on the words in the Mawlid Simtudduror by Al-Habib Ali Al-Habshi rahimahullah ta'ala wa nafa'ana Allah bihi bi'ilmihi fid darain. Alhamdulillah, may Allah have mercy on him and may Allah benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both the boats to what he has said, and we went through in some, with some detail going through the Shahada that came before this, and now the second part of the Shahada. As we know, there are two testimonies of faith, right? The first testimony is the oneness of God, and the second testimony is the prophethood of the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so we say, Ashhadu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan abd وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا العبد الصادق في قوله وفعله والمبلغ عن الله ما أمره بتبليغه لخلقه من فرضه ونفله. And so, and the statement is not done yet, the statement is continuing here. عبد أرسله الله للعالمين بشيرا ونذيرا وبلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة وهدى الله به من الأمة بشرا كثيرا فكان في ظلمة الجهل للمستبصرين سراجا وقمرا منيرا. So ashhadu, and I bear witness. I saw the same meaning for the previously. I bear witness in a'lamu, I know, what yaqanu, and I am certain without any doubt. I have full certainty in this. So I know and I have full certainty in this fact. It's a matter of fact. And I make it clear to those who are and I make it clear to those who are around me. And so ashhadu, so it's not just enough for you to know it in yourself right? But for you to make it clear to those who are around you, right, to yourself and to those who are around you, that our leader, right, and the word Sayyid, and whenever you go through any of this, any beginning text, you will go through the definitions of the word Sayyid, right? And then there's several definitions, and of all of which you can find in the person of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the first definition of the word Sayyid, the first definition of the word Sayyid, right, would be someone who is a leader in his amongst his people, right? He is a leader amongst his people, and of course, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a leader amongst his direct people in his time, right? In Mecca, amongst the Arabs, he was a leader amongst the Arabs, and he is a leader of all people, in all times, in all places, all human beings. He is a leader of all human beings as a first. And then the word Sayyid means a noble, right? A noble amongst the people, right? Someone who is a noble, right? So someone who is of you say, the highest class in society, or the highest standing in society, the highest position in society, right? So people who are, of the people who are of upper class, right? They are the nobles amongst the people. And of course, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the most noble, right, amongst his people, and he is the most noble amongst all people to the end of time, right, till the day of judgment. And then you have the meaning of Sayyid, right, to mean the one with a lot of followers, mashallah. Of course, this would take a different meaning in our zaman, in our time, when people say that someone has a lot of followers, right? And then they call this as such a person an influencer. Right. So in our time, I consider it to be it's not a praise, right? But it's a flaw or a blame. And then again, it goes back to, like why people are having followers and what are all these followers all about, right? But in the true meaning of it, right, the true meaning of having followers, right, is that someone's an example. And someone is a perfect, or someone is a good example. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a perfect example, right? So that's why he has a lot of followers, right? And what he calls to, what he brings, what he demonstrates, what he teaches, right? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is what human beings need. Right, so not just what is good for human beings, not just to that extent, but we actually desperately need, right? We desperately need it. Right? So it's not just what is good for us, right? But what is necessary, and what is absolutely necessary, right, for human beings. That comes from the tongue of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That comes from the person of the Prophet. That comes from the state of the Prophet. That comes from everything about the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Um, right, so what comes from him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is what we desperately need, right? So he has a lot of followers, right? In that, human beings have recognized that the person of the Prophet, right, and the teachings of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, it is a necessity in the life of a human being, for a human being to function properly, and for a human being to achieve bliss in this world and in the hereafter. Right. So we're not so and just a commentary on our zaman, in our time, right? When people have a lot of followers, people do all kinds of nonsense, and all kinds of rubbish online, right? And they have like millions of followers, and la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And this actually shows nothing except for questioning on the day of judgment. It actually shows nothing. It shows nothing except questioning on the day of judgment. Right? When someone goes wrong, and I don't know why people are so proud about it. Right? When someone's so proud, I have more than 80,000 followers, I have 1 million followers, I have 100,000 followers, whatever. All this means is just questions. And it's all it's going to translate to be questions on the day of judgment. It's responsibility, right? Being an influencer, and being proudly, and so I'm an influencer. What does that mean? That means you got a lot of, baggage on your back. It's a whole lot of baggage. On a day of judgment, if you had influenced people to do bad, if influenced people, right, to do things that are undesirable, you had influenced people to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's going to be baggage on your back. And on a day of judgment, you're going to have to answer for every single one of them who got influenced by you, right, to do things that was against the religion. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right? So, mashallah, so all these things are terms now, time that people take pride in. But it should actually strike fear in the hearts of the one with taqwa. It should strike fear. Right? That you don't want to answer for all these people. Millions of people, you're going to answer for all of them. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right? And that's the word Sayyid. And there's another definition of the word Sayyid, right? Which means someone who is composed and level-headed. Right? A Sayyid is someone who is composed and level-headed, such that people run to such an individual when they are in a panic, right? So when they're in a panic, right? When they're panicking, or they are, stressed, or they are, confused, right? Whatever they might be in, right? They run to the Sayyid, right? They run to the Sayyid, seeking for solution, seeking for help, seeking to for advice, right? So someone who is level-headed, who is wise, who is composed, who is respected, who is honored in society, someone outstanding, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he had all these attributes contained in his person. So we will always call him Sayyidina Muhammad, right? Sayyidina Muhammad. And we also say the same, about the companions. And we call the companions to a Sayyid before their name. So we say Sayyidina Abu Bakr, we say Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Osman, Sayyidina Umar. Right? We will say those Sayyid, before their names. And then before we say the names of the blessed wives of the Prophet ﷺ and his daughters. Right? So we say, Sayyidina Khadija, Sayyidatina Fatima, or you can say as-Sayyida, right? Either way, it's all okay. You can say, either way, right? So and it is, as Habib Omar mentions in Maqasid al-Halaqat, right? Whereby he mentions that it is not becoming of a Muslim, right, to just, speak about these great individuals in the history of Islam, without preceding their name with the word Sayyid, or any term of elevation and exaltation, and then having come after saying the names of these individuals, a dua, right? So with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we follow up his name with salawat. With the companions, we follow up their names with radiyallahu anhum, or radiyallahu anhu, or radiyallahu anha, right? And then with those who are righteous, after the companions who are non-companions, right? We say rahimahullah. Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him. Right? So it's a dua. Right? You follow up for dua. Radiyallahu anhu, may Allah's pleasure be on him. Right? This is how, they speak, to differentiate between the companions and those who are not companions, those who are righteous, they come thereafter. So that when I say Habib Ali al-Habshi, I say Rahimahullah. Rahimahullah wa nafa'ana Allah bihi wa bi'alim fi darain. I say Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, right? And may Allah benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. Right? That is the adab, that is the etiquette, that you don't go by their names and treat them as if they're just like one of us living in our time. No, these are illuminaries. These are great people in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not becoming of us, right, to say their name just like that, right? So like to say, like Omar, Omar who, Omar, your brother, Omar, your friend. No, Sayyidina Omar, right? Sayyidina Omar radiyallahu anhu. This is how we address him, right? Because he is someone who is, of position, right, in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So ashhadu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan and so and we bear witness that our leader, our our leader, our master, right? The one we run to, right? And mashallah, the third and the fourth definition of Sayyid, right? Which means that the one, the Halim, right? The one who has Hilm, the one who has composure and good temperament, and level-headed, right? That has Hilm. He is the one that people run to, and al-faza', right? So when they are in a state of stress or panic, of the states. And the worst and the most, and the most, you see, the most severe, right? The most severe situation whereby this state will manifest and people will run to the Prophet ﷺ will be on the day of judgment. And whereby it is narrated in a narration that when the day of judgment comes, people are made to stand from their graves. Right, the people will be in they will be in panic. Right, and so they will run to Nabi Adam alayhi salam. The people, they run to Nabi Adam alayhi salam, right? And they'll say, oh Adam, you are our father, the first human being. Right? Save us from what we are in. Right? Save us from this horror of this day. Right? And Nabi Adam said, leave me. I myself, I have done something, right? That I have, that I have to worry about. And so go to Nuh. Right? So and they go to Nabi Nuh, and the same thing, they say, oh Nuh, help us, right, on this dreadful day. And Nabi Nuh says to them, that myself, leave me. I have enough for me to worry about what I have done. And he says, and so go to the Khalil of Allah, Ibrahim. Ibrahim is the Khalil of Allah. And the same thing happens with Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Nabi Ibrahim says to them, go to Musa. Right, go to Musa, Kalimullah. Right, the one that Allah spoke to, go to Musa. Right, and when you run to Musa, and Nabi Musa says the same thing to them and says, but go to Isa, Ruhullah. Right, go to Isa, Ruhullah. And you run to Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And then Nabi Isa says to them, not me, you're not looking for me, but rather go to Habibullah, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all of creation will run, right? They will run to the greatest Sayyid, right? The one that we run to, right? When we are in a state of panic. Right? We run on the day of judgment, we run to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be the only one amongst all the prophets. He'll be the only one who will say, Ana laha, Ana laha. I will handle it, I will handle it. Right? And then he will go into prostration. Right? And he will say in prostration whatever Allah will inspire in him to say. Right? He will say in frustration whatever Allah will inspire in him to say. And then when he raises his head, right, from frustration, Allah subhanahu, and he will only raise his head when Allah has promised him whatever Allah has promised him of intercession and saving his ummah from the horror of the day of judgment. Right? There's the word Sayyid, right? There's the manifestation of the word Sayyid will manifest in its full, form and glory on the day of judgment. As the Habib Umar, right, who would say that the day of judgment, it is a day of Muhammad. A day of judgment is a day of Muhammad. The day of judgment is when Allah makes it clear to his creation the level, the position, the station of Muhammad. Who is Muhammad? Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Right, so ashhadu anna sayyidana. Right, he is our leader, he is our master, he is the one we run to, he is the one whom we are led by, he is our example, he is our everything, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the one that we love the most in this creation, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Muhammad. And this is the blessed name of our Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is known that our Prophet ﷺ has 99 names and even more than that, right? And names basically are words that describe an individual. The more names an individual has, the more nobility, right, for that individual, right? The more names, the more nobility, right? Which means that the more they are known by, right, the more good traits they are known by, right? So like our Prophet ﷺ, he was known as a Sadiq al-Amin, as Sadiq al-Amin in Mecca. Um, and because he was known by that, right? He was known as a Sadiq, the one who only tells the truth, and Al-Amin, the one who is trustworthy, right? So, and there's no other, mashallah, there is no other, like there was the trait that there was no other person in Mecca, right, who had that trait, right, given to that person, or known by that. So when someone says, "Oh, the truthful one," it was understood it was Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine if you're in a society, maybe not as a society, maybe it's a school, right? If you're in your school, right, of a few hundred people in your school, and if someone were to say, "Oh, the truthful one," and everyone in the school understands who that refers to, that is a testimony to your truthfulness. And nobody else, like they will not think of anyone else in the entire school that actually has that title. This is amazing. Whenever we don't think about this enough, we don't reflect about this enough, right? That when he is called Sadiqul Amin, right? Sadiqul Amin, there are two, you say there are two, titles given to him, and it's understood it's him, is understood in the society. They don't have to say Muhammad al-Amin, or say Muhammad as Sadiq. They would just have to say al-Amin is al-Amin is al-Amin, right? And it's understood by the people who is al-Amin, right? The trustworthy, right? MashaAllah. I mean, subhanAllah, like in our society, if you were to just say, oh, the one who's trustworthy, and people will be like, who? Who's trustworthy? Who are you referring to? Right? Because it's not so apparent, right? And who is trustworthy. But he was so trustworthy and so honest that it became an emblem, right, to him. That was him. Right? So it wasn't like no doubt. The person like he had no doubt when someone said Sadiqul Amin. And who did they refer to? Right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mashallah. Right, so you're speaking about his names, right? But the name that he's most known by is the name Muhammad, right? And that is a name that his grandfather was it to be his grandfather, it was it to be his mother, but ultimately it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave him that name, right? The name Muhammad. Right? And it was said that Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather, right, when the Rasulullah was born, Abdul Muttalib was told in his dreams or in a in a weakened state, but a voice, a hadith, had told him to name this boy Muhammad. This boy has no other name except the name Muhammad. And he was said to say that Amina, his mother, as well. In other mawlids, you might find this narrations, right, that his mother was told, right, that this baby that's in you, the special baby, the last prophet, right, that when he is born, name him Muhammad. And there's only one name for him. And this was not common in the society. The name Muhammad was not a common name, first and foremost. And secondly, it was common for them to name their children after their ancestors, right? So it was common for them to name their children after their ancestors, which is interesting because the ancestry of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the names are all unique, and they're all unique names. And if you go into his nasab, you won't find a repetition in names, but you'll find unique names in his nasab. Interesting, mashallah. Which shows that they were such, illuminated individuals, right? That they would stand out in themselves, mashallah. Right? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so it was something that was not common in that society to name a child not after the name of the father, especially if the father had passed away, or the name of the grandfather, especially if the grandfather had passed away, or the name of the great grandfather, and so on. Right. So it was the culture that they would name, their children after ancestors that had passed away. Right. So Muhammad was not a common name, nor was it common to name a child like a name that's not from the lineage. But again, as I mentioned, his lineage, you don't see a repetition in names. MashaAllah. You don't actually see a repetition in names. Right? It's every single name is unique, all the way to Adnan. You see every single name is unique. MashaAllah. Right? So Muhammad, right, the one who is always and continuously praised. Right? The other name that is known for Rasulullah is the name Ahmad, right? Ahmad. Right? So he is known as Ahmad in the other books, they have been revealed, and he's known as Ahmad in the heavens. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad wa Ahmad. And they both are names for him. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yeah, that's the for today. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.